We need to put Webster's feet to the fire. He says there's chicken farms in town. I said, where? I don't have to tell you.
Seeing none. Welcome, everybody. Consideration of approval of the agenda.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
The agenda is approved as submitted. Consideration of approval of the minutes of the May 23 and June 1 and June 6 meetings.
Move.
Second.
Any other discussion or questions? Clerk could call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
The minutes of the May 23 and June 1 and June 6 meetings are approved. Consideration of approval of the consent calendar. Are there any questions regarding the consent
I
calendar?
was going to ask earlier and I forgot, but where's Primart and Liberty Supply? Where's that at?
Liberty Supply is out where the Get and Go
Right.
used to be,
Okay.
out on Gilbert. And the Prime Mart is Rush Stop, the old Rush Stop up here
okay.
on South Main.
So move.
Second.
Clerk could call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Consent calendar is approved as submitted. Take it out of order. Proclamation of Sarcoma Awareness Month for July. Could you step up to the podium and identify yourself and tell us what you're asking for?
Yes, both of you.
Proper T.
Is it on? Can you hear me?
I think so.
Okay. Jean Bowley. My daughter had sarcoma and passed away over a year ago, and we just want to make sure that the public is aware of what sarcoma is, because I was not aware of it before.
Thank you.
I'm Clifford Bowley, Amy's father.
Yes, many of us watched through Facebook the struggles your family went through and the heartbreak of the end. So
Don't go there, Mike.
it's important to get this out there. So thank you for coming down.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve
so
the
move.
proclamation?
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Okay, the proclamation is approved. I'll come down and read it.
Just for my clarification, Amy was married to Jeff. Is that correct? I had
Yeah.
not connected the names. Sorry about that.
Right.
I work with Mike and followed them closely, so.
Whereas sarcoma cancers are rare and often aggressive, growing in the bones, muscles, and soft tissues of the body. And whereas sarcoma cancers are often diagnosed too late for effective treatment, while early diagnosis and proper treatment would lead to increased survival. And whereas sarcoma cancers are among the most common cancers occurring in children and young adults and are too often misdiagnosed as athletic or other injuries. And whereas most cancers take approximately 4 months to be diagnosed, sarcoma, however, takes an average of 14 months to be diagnosed. Consequently, this sometimes results in extreme treatments and a poor prognosis. Therefore, I, James A. Erb, Mayor of Charles City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of July as Sarcoma Awareness Month in the city of Charles City. Signed by myself. I appreciate you bringing this to us, and you know you have community support for all the things you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have some appointments to ask for consideration of. The reappointment of Vonda Cummings and Leonard Erickson to the Library Board, and the appointment of Colette Schmidtke to replace Heidi Worrell on the Library Board.
And that's actually Cummins. I apologize to Vonda. I have a G in there, and there is no G in there. It's Cummins. So.
INS, yeah.
Yep.
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, Colette
Mhm.
worked as a librarian, I think, with the school system,
Mhm.
so on, so she's well qualified for the position. I also, at this point, would propose the appointment of Bruce Hovden to replace Ann Troji on Planning and Zoning Commission.
Sure, his qualifications, but I would make the motion.
I think everybody knows that Bruce was the assessor for the county, and therefore is very well qualified. I make this delayed it a little bit because we were trying to gender balance this, and we need somebody within the within city limits, and we do need people who have a good grasp of some of these things. So therefore, I'm actually, if we'll make up the difference of down the road, but I think in this case, Bruce Hovden is a good person to have on the.
He'll be real good on there.
Okay. Clerk will call the roll on this one.
Do you want to do the one on the library as well? Because I don't think we roll called that one.
We didn't vote on
Okay.
the first one.
That's what I was weighing.
Yeah,
Yep.
would you like to do that one first?
Okay,
It's Jerry and Delene that...
all right. Clerk will call the roll
Okay.
on the library.
Okay. Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Okay, the library appointments are approved. Next, Bruce Hovden.
I'll second that.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Okay, Bruce Hovden is approved. Request from Chamber to use golf carts on the city streets for the 4th of July parade. Discussion.
Mark inadvertently omitted this from his request at the last meeting for all of the 4th of July activities, and they normally do the golf carts to drive up and down the parade route. I believe they take the judges around to judge the floats and that type of a thing. So he wanted to make sure and get that request into you guys, make sure that was still okay. I know they've done that for a number of years, so.
Katie, make sure the paper says this is the 4th of July only for the parade. I have a lot of friends that are on my back about this. I so move.
Second.
Now,
Any further discussion?
As the legal-wise, where are we at on that? I know we can't have them crossing highways, but...
Main Street's closed down
Yeah.
during the parade, so it's kind of a non-issue.
Should be.
They also drive them on 13th Avenue across North Grand,
Yes.
even though it's not a closed route. I think that's why they're asking your permission.
Mhm.
Since the parade route is a closed route, I don't know if they actually need your permission, but for the part where they're driving on the city streets, I assume it's why they're asking your permission by code.
I can testify to the fact they use golf carts to judge the parade.
This is something we have done for a number of years. This isn't something new
Right,
or
right.
No,
that there have been any issues at all previously, so.
no, I don't know of any. Okay, we got a
Yes, we do.
motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Okay, the clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
All right.
Okay, the request is granted. Consideration of third and final reading of ordinance 1091, amending the zoning classification of two parcels located in Block 8 in the original plat of St. Charles, now incorporated as Charles City, Iowa, from B-2 General Business District to R-3 Multifamily Residence District and COS Conservation Open Space District respectively. Discussion.
Okay, as discussed before, we've had a first and a second reading on this. This is to rezone some properties up on North Jackson. The properties in specific are the Art Center, the empty lot by the Art Center, and then the building north of the Art Center. They are asking to rezone them to multifamily residence, which would be a better fit for what goes on up there as far as the building north of the Art Center. And the other two parcels are the Art Center. They are more in match with Central Park, and Central Park is immediately across the street, and that is zoned conservation open space. So the city had brought this request to Planning and Zoning. They held a hearing on it, and their recommendation is to approve this ordinance. And tonight will be the third and final reading of this ordinance.
And we've discussed this a number of times. I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Do we have any questions from anybody, public or anything?
Nope, nothing. No.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Okay. The third reading is approved. Can we have the third reading?
Oh, I suppose I gotta dig that out. Okay, ordinance 1091, an ordinance amending the zoning classification of two parcels located in Block 8 in the original plat of St. Charles, now incorporated as Charles City, Iowa, from B2 General Business District to R3 Multiple Family Resident District. And what's that, COS?
COS, it stands for Conservation
Oh.
Open Space. So.
And COS Conservation and Open Space District respectively.
Very good. You're welcome.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt and publish?
So move, Your Honor.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Oh, gosh. Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Okay, the ordinance is adopted and will be published. Consideration of the third and final reading of ordinance 1092, amending section 4, general provisions of the Charles City zoning ordinance by adding a new subdivision to allow ramps and other structures providing accessibility to residential structures for handicapped individuals in situations where such structures might otherwise violate provisions of the zoning ordinance. Discussion.
This item, too, had been brought before Planning and Zoning. What they're trying to help out here is when people put a ramp in, many times in order to get the correct slope, it ends up encroaching on the, what's the word?
Setback.
Setback, thank you, Delane. And can cause some problems, makes them come to Board of Adjustment for a variance, that type of a thing. This amendment to this ordinance would allow for this item to be brought to the zoning administrator for his approval. And the one contingency is that if the person that needs the ramp does not live in the residence anymore, then the ramp needs to be taken out. This also went to Planning and Zoning, and they held a hearing on it, and their recommendation is to approve this amendment to the ordinance.
Essentially, it makes it easier for people that need this to get it, and once this person's not there, it essentially goes away.
Right.
So, I'd so move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Okay, the third reading is approved. We'll have the third reading.
Ordinance number 1092, an ordinance amending section 4, general provisions of the Charles City zoning ordinance by adding a new subsection to allow ramps and other structures providing accessibility to residential structures for handicapped individuals in situations where such structures might otherwise violate provisions of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt and publish ordinance 1092?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Okay, the ordinance is adopted and will be published. Consideration of second reading of ordinance 1093, amending section 91-05 of the Charles City Code of Ordinances by amending provisions pertaining to meter settings. Discussion.
Right now, the water department runs into some issues where there's only one shut-off valve in the house, and when they go to change out a meter, it can be quite messy. So they would really like to start requiring that a valve be put on both sides of the meter. They talked about gosh, why can't I talk tonight? Requiring a retroactive fit. But they just didn't think that that was going to be real feasible. So they are just requiring this in new construction only, and this would be the second reading of this ordinance.
Discussion or questions?
And for, I guess, further explanation, if you think about it, when you shut the water off down below, you know, everything up above is still running, so they take it off. You got all that coming down, so they prefer to avoid that. I'm sure the homeowner would as well. So I'd encourage people to put one in, you know, in their current homes, but absolutely new construction is the best time to do it, cost effective. I'd so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call a roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
The second reading is approved, and we'll have it at this time.
Ordinance number 1093, an ordinance amending section 91.05 of the Charles City Code of Ordinances by amending provisions pertaining to meter settings.
Thank you. Consideration of the first reading of ordinance 1094, amending section 105 of the Charles City Code of Ordinances by repealing section 105.05 and adopting a new section 105.05, which it modifies the repealed section by redefining the exceptions to the restrictions on open burning. Discussion.
This is really just a correction. This initially was changed back in 2012, and it was going to, it allowed recreational fires with certain parameters that couldn't be any bigger than like a 3-foot diameter. You can only burn wood products in it. It could only burn for certain hours. I think midnight was the latest it could burn. When we did the recodification last year, Iowa codification, and I mean, they did it the way they should have. Later, or in another code section, we had adopted the state fire code. And so what Iowa codification did in this instance was they took out what we had put in there and referenced the state fire codes because we had adopted it. But we really wanted to have these in place. So this is basically just a correction to put it back in there because it really shouldn't have been taken out in the first place. If that makes sense to you guys, hopefully. So what we are requesting is that you approve the first reading tonight and waive the second and third readings and go ahead and adopt this, because normally ordinances have 3 readings, but in this instance it's just more of a correction. So we're hoping you guys would consider doing that. So
The housekeeping item, essentially.
Basically, a housekeeping
We are
item.
passing what we already had passed.
right.
I'd so move.
Second.
Any further discussion? Clerk will call a roll.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Okay, we'll have the first reading of the ordinance.
Ordinance number 1094, an ordinance amending Chapter 105 of the Charles City Code of Ordinances by repealing Section 105.05 and adopting a new Section 105.05, which modifies the repealed section by redefining the exceptions to the restrictions on open burning.
Thank you. Now, the next item up here is consideration of a motion to waive the second and third reading of ordinance 1094.
So move. Second.
Third.
Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Okay, the second and third readings are waived. Could we have a motion to adopt and publish ordinance 1094?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Okay, the ordinance will be considered adopted and will be published. Consideration of the first reading of ordinance 1095, amending section 50.07 of the Charles City Code of Ordinances for the purpose of permitting the posting of subsequent notices to abate in a conspicuous location on the property in the event the nuisance to be abated is the growth of weeds, grasses, and other vegetation. Discussion.
I'll go ahead and do this one. Gosh, this is the most ordinances
You
I've
want me
ever
to
done in
discuss
one
that?
night. This is amazing.
This is just,
I was looking
Yeah,
at you.
you want, yeah, Ralph, if you want to, go
Um,
ahead and take it away.
we traditionally, for abating nuisances, require that the person be served with notice, you know, in a fashion similar to personal service in civil proceedings. Personal service or mailed, certified mail, and posting, it's quite cumbersome to serve notice, but the idea is to notify people that there's action being taken. And this is an expedited way of giving notice for people who do not mow their grass during the entire summer. We serve them with notice that we're going to mow their grass and abate the nuisance, and then we also will advise them that for future situations in that growing season, we're just going to post a 48-hour notice on their lawn or in a conspicuous place to give them an opportunity to get it mowed. But if they don't do it within 48 hours, we'll mow it without the necessity of reserving them in the traditional manner each time. So it's to try to relieve the burden of service in the traditional manner for growth of weeds and grass.
When we mow it, it's added to their taxes.
Yes.
They get a bill. They get a bill
I
for it.
I
They
think we
get
have
a
to give them
chance.
some
Yeah.
opportunity for due process. So this is, they still get a notice of sorts, but it's going to be a little bit less than what we would normally give.
Seems to me we've got a fair amount of that going on in town
Yeah.
this
we do
year
have
for
a-
some
we have a-
reason. It just seems like there's a lot of places that aren't getting mowed and getting
Yeah.
taken care of.
Yeah.
And the courts are okay with this accelerated method? If we needed to pursue
Hopefully we
it?
will not find out. My judgment is the courts would say this is reasonable.
Well, one is, it's not that, basically, it's not treating it as a new offense each time. It's treating it
Oh, it's treating it as a new offense each time. That's why we're going to post notice each time.
Okay.
I think some cities don't, and I've always been concerned about assessing the cost on the person's taxes if they have no prior notice and opportunity to either do it or challenge it. So this is a compromise.
Further discussion or questions?
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
The first reading is approved. We'll have it.
Ordinance number 1095, an ordinance amending section 50.07 of the Charles City Code of Ordinances for the purpose of permitting the posting of subsequent notices to abate in a conspicuous location on the property in the event the nuisance to be abated is the growth of weeds, grasses, or other vegetation.
Thank you. Consideration of Resolution 52-16, setting salaries for non-bargaining unit employees for fiscal year 2017. Discussion.
Traditionally, council has always given raises to the non-bargaining employees the same as what the union has bargained for. This year, the union will get 2.75%, and so that is what this resolution is doing. There are a few exceptions here. Eric Whipple is getting $1,000 additional. Marty Parcher is getting $500. Brad Worrell is getting $1 an hour extra, and Casey Mallory is getting $1 an hour extra. In the case of Brad and Casey, it's to keep them above their subordinates because they haven't kept up. So they're going to put them a little bit higher. And Eric and Marty, they were budgeted into the fiscal year 17 budget, so those need to be approved. So those are the only four outside of the straight 2.75%. And these will go into effect July 1 for next fiscal year.
Further discussion or questions?
I assume this was all presented and discussed by the negotiating committee, personnel committee?
Personnel, yes.
I believe so.
Mhm.
Jerry,
Gary and
okay.
myself discussed it with Steve.
Yeah, 'cause I wasn't involved, but I was thinking you guys had talked,
Yes.
so.
So move.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Star.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Resolution 52-16 is approved. Consideration of Resolution 53-16, approving local feasibility study with Smart Source Consulting for community broadband engagement and education project. Discussion.
Okay, this is for, we've approved to kind of go in with the regional, and they've done a regional study for the broadband. That study showed that, yes, it would be a good thing. So now we need to go and look to see locally what we want to do, basically to see what the support is out there for this, because this is going to take support of all the residents that they want this. So this is being called a pre-feasibility study. So that's what it's going to do. It's just going to look to see if we're interested in this. And if we are, then they would come back and do a feasibility study, and that's where you're going to get the dollars, you know, what it's going to cost, all that good stuff. Am I saying this right, Delaney?
Yep,
Hopefully you can
basically,
help me
this is
out.
going to be a study that's going to be, I'm going to send out a survey to residents in town to ask them about this. This was done about 6 or 7 years ago, but with the changes that have occurred since then in technology and phones and everything else, going to do this survey again, and also at the same time kind of trying to educate people as far as what different things are out there and changes that have come along in the last 6 or 7 years, and see what the interest is in the community to see if the city should continue to be involved in this fiber ring network that's being proposed for a number of communities here in Iowa, which Charles City has been in kind of the beginning of that. And hopefully this pre-feasibility study will help us determine if it's worth continuing to pursue that for economic and personal reasons for everybody, you know, in the community, as far as better service for their internet access and possibly cable TV and things like that. And you know, it will either help us decide that we need to spend some more money to continue on this, or if there's no interest from the community, you know, probably lets us know that it's not worth pursuing. So, but the Broadband Commission has been looking at this for quite some time, and everyone on that commission, don't have anybody here tonight, but I serve as a liaison on it, has been very much in favor of pursuing this further. This option sounds very plausible. It would probably mean at some point the city would need to initiate a utility, you know, municipal utility. Several communities around here have that. Cedar Falls, I believe Waverly has one. Osage has one. That would probably run this and take care of the billing and everything through the city. So there's some very interesting things that could come out of all of this long term for the city.
Yeah, I think as a matter of information, we already have legally approved the utility, so we wouldn't have to repeat that step if we decide to proceed.
I would so move for this motion.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Clerk will call the roll.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Should just mention, sorry, the cost of this study is $18,500, and I believe the intent was to take that out of the cable fund
Correct.
to pay for this portion of that study.
Because there's money there that you had been earmarked for the franchise fee renewal, and since that's all been taken over by the state, this money
Correct.
is there, so they're going to use it for that. And it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks they're looking at to complete it, so thank you very much, Delene.
Not a problem.
Okay. So Resolution 53-16 was approved. Consideration of Resolution 54-16, approving transfer of tax rebate agreement from BDH to Walderbeck Properties LLC. Discussion.
We had Mr. Walderbach at our last planning session to go over this request. BDH, which is, for those of you who don't know, is the Fastenal building up on Main Street across from Central Park. They are interested in selling their property to, I want to call you doctor, but you aren't a doctor, are you? Okay, thank but you play one on TV, right? No. And so he is looking to purchase that property, and there is a tax rebate left on that property. It's about $31,000 left on it, and he is requesting that we transfer that agreement to him, which it is allowed in the agreement, the original agreement. And it's a 50% tax rebate for 10 years is what it was. What else do I need to talk about?
The justification for it.
At the workshop, we had talked about Steve looking into that, and he has in his notes that he compared this new entity to the previous entity and
Right.
found that the initial building development inputs are comparable to the present new owner, and the number of jobs is a bit fewer, but the median wage is going to be a little higher, so that helps offset that. So, and new owner's planning on spending some additional money on the property.
Right.
So,
Do some updates and
Basically, we're staying with the same commitment we had with the original owner of that building. We're not
Essentially,
changing
yes.
anything near down the road. It's just
correct.
actually, this looks like an improvement because
Yep.
he told us about his plans and what he plans on doing with it.
Correct. Yeah, we're just transferring that remaining balance over. So it's not like it's starting over. He's just going to assume the
Right.
remaining balance that's left.
There's no more discussion, I move.
second.
Clerk, call the roll.
Friesman.
Aye.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Resolution 54-16
got it.
is approved.
I think.
Consideration of Resolution 55-16, authorizing and approving a loan agreement and providing for the issuance of a $253,355 general obligation corporate purpose note. Discussion.
First off, I need to make a correction in the resolution. Thank you, Delane, for catching that. There is a wrong number in the resolution. They have for an amount not to exceed $642,000. I believe that was last year's. That's what happened. They just used this as a template and didn't make that change. That should read $253,355. So I will call the bond council and make that change before this gets formalized. What this is an annual one-day borrowing that we do in order to satisfy the debt for the debt service levy. Every year we do a debt service levy for these items, and then at the end of the fiscal year we determine what we actually expensed. So I go to each of the department heads and ask them where they are at on these various items here. What they don't use, we will carry forward, because some of these projects just the timeline gets changed and they don't get it done this year, so we will bump it forward. Most of it's for equipment. The police department, there's a vehicle replacement fund that we levied for, some street equipment, some other police equipment like pagers, tasers, what else? Hue is included in there, radios. Yeah, all kinds of
that's right.
equipment. And this is all for essential items, so we are limited on what we can actually levy for. Some of this is repairs out in the parks, to the Westwood shelters and the restrooms. There's some money in there for nuisance abatement, which we have been really working on using, so we keep on top of that. Tree removal in the city right-of-ways included in there. Riverfront stabilization, we were having some issues down here in the riverfront, and so we levied for that and were able to cover the expenses of that. So when I went through and added up everything that we had purchased for the year, it came to $253,355, and so that is what we will be borrowing. I sent out requests to all the banks in town, the 4 banks. We received one quote back from First Citizens for $50, so we will be doing this through them. And Dorsey Whitney will be preparing all of the necessary paperwork. We will be closing on this on June 28th, if you approve it tonight. So,
Just a correction, Keith just pointed out, Delane, First Citizens is no longer national, right?
Correct.
So it should be First Citizens Bank, not National Bank.
I will make that change. I guess you can tell I'm in the old days there, so.
Yeah, you're old.
Thanks a lot, Harvey.
Further discussion or questions?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Hammond.
Aye.
Starr.
Aye.
Yeager.
Aye.
Friesman.
Abstain.
Resolution 55-16 is approved. Other business, miscellaneous correspondence.
None, Your Honor.
City Attorney's report.
Nothing?
City Clerk's report.
We will have a planning session on the 27th, and that will be followed by a special session with a closed session for Steve's and my evaluations. And I believe we got all the evaluations back
hours.
in, so I appreciate you guys getting that in, and the mayor will get those all calculated and get them back out. So be kind, be gentle, that's all I'm going to ask.
Okay, anything else?
The 27th, that's a
Monday.
Monday night, yeah.
Week from-
I won't be here.
You will?
No, I won't be here.
Oh, okay. We'll have to have somebody come in then in 2 minutes. Take
That's
notes.
what Brad does.
What?
Will Brad be
Yeah,
able to come?
Brad should be able to come.
Okay, tell him to get his pen ready.
He will be
should.
now.
Mentioned to Steve that he needs to be here as well.
I didn't hear what you
Steve
said.
Sears? Oh, yeah, he knows that, yeah.
Okay,
You don't need to come.
And City Hall will be closed on Monday the 4th for the holiday, so everybody have a good holiday.
Not with pay.
Yes,
Oh,
hey.
for Pete's sakes.
I know.
board, commission,
Well, our
or
meeting-
committee.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Will our meeting move to...
On the Tuesday, sorry, I just assumed that, sorry. Thank you for saying that, Keith. Our meeting will be held on Tuesday that night, that week,
Thank
July
The
5th.
5th.
Yes.
Other comments, questions? Board, commission, or committee reports? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed?
Got it in there before.
I said I was...
Do you have the flu or something?
But I know
Well.
Dave's losing their ass by even
Steve,
right.